Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to change the bearings in your Prime XDR Freehub body. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. So here we have the Freehub body. So the first thing we need to do is remove the dust shield from the end there. So what you want to do is get yourself a pick or a small screwdriver and just get underneath that seal there, in between the bearing and the actual seal itself, in there, and just gently lever up on it and it'll pop out. It's actually rubber in the middle and then it's got a metal ring around the edge, so just be careful not to misshape that because you need to put it back in. You've got the bearing, you can see there in this end, and then there's 3 bearings in total in these, so you can see one there and there's 2 in the bottom. There's a spacer collar in between, you see there, that should move easily. Now if it doesn't move as easy as that, then what you want to use is the end of a small screwdriver, like the handle end, and just move it like that, because if you use something metal and force it, you could put a mark on that collar, and then when you go to slide your Freehub back on, it won't go back on because you put a slight edge on it, and it won't allow it to slide over the axle so easily. So the best thing to do is just use the end like that and move it to one side like that. So what I'll do is I'll just show you how to get this bearing out of the end here first. So what we've got here is a block of wood on a hard surface. Now if you've got a bench, put a block of wood on your bench and you can use that. I'm just showing you on the floor here, so just show you don't need any special tools to do it with. So after removing the bearing in the end there first, so what we do is, like I showed, off centre the collar slightly to one side, and we stand it down like that so the pulls are facing up. And then we get a punch, and then you can see the lip down in the bottom there because you've moved the collar to one side. So what you need to do is rest the punch on the lip with the bearing in the bottom, a small punch like that, then just give it a tap, small hammer, give it a couple of taps, and then just move across the other side and give it a couple of taps. Don't all hit it all out in one place because you'll be hitting it out crooked, so you just got to give it a couple of taps and move it around like that, and just keep moving it around so it's hitting it out square. And eventually, as you're hitting it down, the collar will get looser in there as the bearing comes out. As you can see there, the bearing's now flush with the block of wood because it's come down to the end. So I'll just show you the next step. So the next step is, I've got a socket. This just happens to be a 27mm socket. So what you do is, that'll just sit on there like that. So then you can carry on and just get on the bearing in there. Just carry on knocking it down like that. As you'll see, the bearing and the spacer removed like that into the socket. So now you can see the bearing, the 2 bearings there down in the bottom, so you can get to them. Obviously they've got to come out the same way, so therefore they need to drop down, and the bearings are the same size in there, and they'll come down, and then you need to knock them out through the same place as that bearing just come out of. So we just place that down on there to start with. You can see the edge of the bearing just down in here if you look. So we'll place the Freehub body down like that as we had it before, and then using a 12mm socket which fits down in the end there, and a rest on the bearings down in there. So if you just rest that on there and then hold on to it like that. If you haven't got a long socket, then just use a short one with a little extension on it, if you haven't got one of the deeper sockets. So just hold that in on the bearing like that, and then we just tap that round and they'll drop down inside one by one. Just have to check inside if they're coming down, then carry on until one of them drops out into there. So as you can see, the bearings have started to come down like that. They've dropped down inside now, and they're going to come out this end, so they're both coming down at the same time. So you just carry on as you were before, just drop your socket back in there and hold it, and then just keep tapping it down again until one of them comes flush with the end. And then when it does that, you have to use your socket again, obviously like that, and then they'll both come out. So you just need to get them initially flush with the end of the Freehub body before you use the socket. Just rest that in there again like that. As you can see, it's flush with the end. So then you just get your socket again, put it like that. And just hit them down. And there they are. So now you've got an empty Freehub body. So just give it a clean round inside, get rid of any of the old grease or dirt that's in there. Then you're ready to go ahead, after you've cleaned it, to reinstall the 3 new bearings in there. So when it comes to reinstalling the bearings, first of all, just put some grease around in the bottom there, where the 2 bearings are going to sit in there. Just put a coating of grease in there, just a thin coat, like that, and a coating over the end here, where the bearings are going to go down through. Then just get one of your bearings and just put some grease over the edge of it, like that, to start with. And then what we'll do is place a bearing in the top there, just sit it in. You just give it a push down on it a little bit, just make sure it's seated there. And then once it's in position, see, this bearing's going to go down through into the bottom to start with. So to put it in, get yourself a 19mm socket, which is the same size as the bearing, like that. Never hit where the seal is on the bearing, she'll damage it straight away. So what you do is hold that socket over there like that, and then give it a tap and just check that the bearing's going in level as you're doing it. Just hold it on there and just start tapping in. As you can see, it's going in like that. You just put your socket back over again, making sure that it's dead in line with the bearing. Then as you tap it down, as you see, the socket will just follow it in. You can see that or not. It's exactly the same size, so it just fits in there like that, and it will follow the bearing down. Obviously you've got to hit it down into the bottom. If you want it to go in, you know it's going alright, just put a little bit of smear of grease like that around your socket as well, just to help it slide in. You just hit it down, then it drops into the middle, and then it starts on seating itself in the bottom. So again, you just tap it round like that, and it goes down in. You can tell, look from the other end and see how far you got to go before it gets to the actual seated in the bottom. You can see when it's touching in the bottom, so you just carry on tapping that down. As I said before, the socket, it goes straight in there like that and just follows it down. The note will change when you hit the bottom, and you can see it's all the way in. And then we get another bearing. Always use quality bearings, don't use any cheap ones, because they just don't last. I'll put the numbers for these bearings in the description below the video. So I'll just put a little bit more grease around in there. So obviously you've got to repeat the process again, like that. And then same again on the outside of the bearing, thin coat round there. And again you sit that in position in the top, making sure that when you put it in there, make sure that it's going in, like I said before, straight. It's not, you're not hitting it in crooked. And get your socket again, and same thing again. Just put your socket over it. Line it up exactly with the bearing. Just gently tapping it down. Like that until it starts to go in. It's just a case of hitting it in till it touches the other bearing that's already in there. You just put in like that. See there, they're both touching together. So now I'm ready to do the next step. So what I'll do before I put the spacer in, put some grease over the face of that bearing that's in the bottom there that you just put in. Put a coat of grease over that, like that. And then just get a spacer and just put a little bit of grease on the end of it, like that. Then we'll just sit that on the grease that you just put in there and make sure it's in line with the bearings. So it's dead in line with the bearings you just put in. And I'll just put a little smear around the top where the bearing's going to sit, where we've got to slide it in, where we're going to hit it into. Then get your last bearing on the inside that you don't see. It's going to be inside the Freehub, what you don't see. Just put a smear of grease over the actual seal on it, like that, just to help keep the moisture out. Then just put a light coat around the outside again, like you did for the other ones. And then again sit that on the top. There. Same thing again, get your socket, hold it over it, and then just tap this one in the same as you did the other two until it's flush with the top of the Freehub. So once you've finished knocking that bearing in, it's just below the surface there. Then what you can do is just put a smear of grease over that face of that bearing, like that. And then with your seal for the end, you can just rest that on there like that. You can just push it in place with your fingers, and then if you just stand it on your block of wood like that and just push down on it, then it will just seat in flush where it should be, like that. So that's the installation of the bearings complete. So don't forget, when you put this back on your bike, don't forget to grease. Put some grease up inside here and just smear it round, and grease the axle before you slide it on, and also check that your spacer is dead in line in there. Otherwise, if it's not, you won't be able to slide it back on very easily. So what you do is get your, if it's not in line, get your screwdriver handle again, just put that in there and just tweak it until it's, the spacer in there was dead in line, and then you're ready to slide that back on. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.